All right, well, I guess the same group of people that got mad at my Deion Sanders video can go ahead and get mad at this one, probably for the same reasons, which are just completely ridiculous. Some of the things y'all said in the comment section on that Deion Sanders video are just ridiculous. The fact that I don't think Deion Sanders winning 9 or 10 games this year. Look, Colorado's the worst program in the Power 5. Forget worst team last year. They're the worst program. They haven't won 5 games or more since like 2019. They're just horrendous. So it's got nothing to do with, well, it definitely doesn't have anything to do with what color Deion Sanders is. Some of you people are the lowest common denominator of human beings. You hear anything you disagree with from a white person and automatically they're racist. I said over and over again how much I love Deion Sanders in that video. Never mind the fact that James Franklin's one of my favorite coaches. I talk about him nonstop to the point where Penn State fans are even tired of hearing it. And I'm all over Billy Napier like white on rice. And he's not a person of color. It just makes you people, what it is a bunch of people watch that Deion Sanders video who have no idea who I am. The idea that I might somehow be racist against black people because I think unfair expectations are being heaped on Deion in year one is ridiculous. You obviously have not been around this channel for very long. Do you have any idea how many redneck hillbilly pieces of shit are unsubscribed from my channel because I'm not racist? Here's the thing. When you watch my Deion Sanders video and your only reply in the comment section is that I'm racist, you're a part of the problem, buddy. Buddy Rowe. Dummy. Anyway, hey, Ed Reed, if you're watching this video, and I'm pretty sure that you are, I'm going to attempt to piss off the same group of people here as the Deion Sanders video. Hey, Ed, how do you get fired from a job you never had? Well, I tell you, I've heard of, we all know people that have been fired or lost their job or whatever, and I have heard, I can't tell you the number of reasons I've heard of people being fired or people losing their job or whatever. I don't know that I've ever heard of someone being fired from a job they never even had. This is crazy. I guess Bethune-Cookman has been really bad the last couple of years, 2-9. Traditionally they're a pretty good team. I think they've won that conference 5 or 6 times in the last 20 years or so. But they've been really bad the last couple of years, 2-9. They fired their coach. Ed Reed decided he wanted the job. The university decided they were interested in Ed Reed. And an announcement was made that they had reached an agreement in principle, for Ed Reed to become coach. Nothing was finalized. Nothing was signed. He definitely was never paid, anything like that. Ed Reed takes it upon himself to move from Miami. More on that in a second, by the way. The fact that he was even at Miami. He takes it upon himself to move from Miami to Daytona Beach, where Bethune-Cookman is, and basically move in and set up shop based solely off of this quote-unquote agreement in principle. He's in there setting up his office, meeting with the players, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but technically the guy had not been hired. And then a few days ago, he goes on Twitter, and I think it was Twitter. I might be wrong about where he posted this, but I believe it was Twitter. And he goes on this rant with a bunch of cuss words, that doesn't bother me at all. I cuss. It doesn't bother me that he cussed. But he goes on social media and rants and raves and cusses about Bethune-Cookman and sort of the way they're treating him initially as he's getting there. I guess his specific complaint was that the head coach's office wasn't clean enough. Look, everybody deserves a clean office to work in. But I don't know if that was the best way to handle it. Do you? Let's be real here. If I work at the dollar store and I go on social media and I rant and rave about how shitty the dollar store is and how messy it is and how dirty it is, and they find out, chances are they might fire me. Never mind if I'm not even officially hired yet let's say I interview for the dollar store. Because this is more like what Ed Reed did. Let's say I interview for a job at the dollar store. And during the interview, or at the end of the interview tells me, I like what I hear here. You seem qualified. I want to move forward in the interview process. We'll be in touch to finalize all the arrangements. Now, I haven't technically been hired, but I feel like me and the dollar store manager type person have reached an agreement in principle, so to speak. I go home, I pull out my secular phone, and I go on this rant about how terrible the dollar store is and how dirty and filthy it is. The manager, who I interviewed with, sees the video and then decides not to hire me or fire me, as basically Ed Reed is putting it. And I guess depending on who you ask, the story is different. The school is claiming Ed Reed is walking away from the job. Ed Reed is claiming the school no longer wants him. The school then did come out and issue a statement, I believe yesterday on Saturday, saying we've decided not to move forward in the hiring process with Ed Reed. We have certain standards and blah, blah, blah. They didn't refer specifically to his rant on social media, but it was pretty clear that that's what they were talking about. And then Ed Reed videos himself. This is another thing, and Deion's doing this too. Putting everything about your college football program on social media. As a head coach, I'm talking. When you're the head coach of a college football program and you make the decision that you're going to basically be social media you, there are some obvious advantages to that, and I talked about those in the Deion Sanders video. Everyone is into social media now, particularly high school kids, which in turn means high school recruits, and even college-age kids, right? How many followers do they have? Do they have a TikTok channel or an Instagram account or a YouTube channel or a Twitter, and they've got this many followers? And people are just into that now, particularly the younger crowd, your high school and early 20s college-age kids. So the idea of coming to a place like Colorado with Deion Sanders, or in turn, Bethune-Cookman with Ed Reed, it's sort of some built-in notoriety there. It's a built-in kind of social media presence there, particularly with Deion Sanders. And I'm bringing this up because Ed Reed filmed himself, or someone filmed him. I mean, I don't believe for a second that Ed Reed didn't know it was being filmed. Never mind the fact he filmed a video call with Deion later. I'll get to that too in a minute. But anyway, he stands up in front of the team, I guess at the team meeting room at Bethune-Cookman. He stands up in front of the team and some parents who were there too, and goes on this 10, 15-minute, 5-minute, whatever it was, tirade, basically telling them that Bethune-Cookman ain't worth a shit. And that they're not serious about football, and that they don't want to do this, and they don't want to do that, and they won't give me this, and they won't give me that, and they won't promise me this, and they won't promise me that. And they're nothing but a bunch of liars. Now, I know sort of his integrity was questioned when this happened, because they're like, oh, is Ed Reed turning his back on Bethune-Cookman and walking away? And so Ed Reed felt like he had to defend himself and say, no, I'm not walking away. You know, we had these agreements in place, and now they're backing out on these agreements and blah. It's a finger pointing is what it is between Ed Reed and Bethune-Cookman. And I don't have a problem with Ed Reed meeting with his team. I think, in fact, it's the opposite. We hear sometimes where coaches either are fired or voluntarily leave, maybe to take another job somewhere else, whatever the case. They're not going to come back and coach the team the next year. And you'll hear that the coach didn't even meet with the players before he left. And I hate that. You know, these players get really close with these coaches, and if a coach is going to leave for whatever reason, I fully support the coach addressing the team and addressing the situation and giving his side of the story. So I've got no problem with what Ed Reed did. Now, specifically what he said, not sure if that was the best message to give a bunch of kids who are currently enrolled to play football at Bethune-Cookman, that basically the university doesn't care about you, but as far as him meeting with the players and the team, I fully support that. But videoing that and putting it out on the internet, I don't know. Because now, not only do the kids on that team know that Ed Reed thinks Bethune-Cookman is a shitty place to be, that doesn't care about football or its student athletes or its coaches, the entire world knows that Ed Reed feels that way. How true is it? I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of truth to what Ed Reed said. I mean, he was clearly very passionate in the video and emotional. And I've got no reason to question Ed Reed's character or whether he's telling the truth or not or anything like that. As far as I know, Ed Reed is a great guy. I don't know much about him, but I have no reason to think he's just making all this up. That's not the point. He has ruined Bethune-Cookman. Who's gonna want to go there in the immediate aftermath of this? Anyway, Ed Reed gets fired from a job he never technically had, which is hilarious. That's not hilarious. It's only hilarious because he got fired from a job he didn't have after quitting a job at Miami that doesn't really exist. What was Ed Reed's job at Miami? He didn't have one. Now, before any of this Dion to Colorado stuff, before any of this Ed Reed versus Bethune-Cookman stuff, I have been laughing about the Ed Reed and Miami relationship for 3 years here on YouTube, since he first went down there and became director of football operations, or whatever that is. He wasn't an on-field coach. He wasn't at practice coaching. You can't be. There are rules and regulations in place about how many coaches can be on the field and who can be working with players. And basically, Ed Reed had a no-show job at Miami. He was basically just an ornament. He's no different than like a tree topper you would put on top of a Christmas tree, a big shiny star that says, "Hey, look at me. I'm Ed Reed. Come to Miami." He didn't actually have that much to do with the program. It was a mob job. If you've seen The Sopranos, or you know any mob history, or you've seen mob movies or whatever, the mob will take control of these industries, whether it's sanitation or the work in the docks or whatever it is. And people in the mob are making money in illegal ways, gambling, drugs, whatever the case. And as a way to trick the IRS, the IRS, wants to know where your money's coming from. These mob guys on paper would have an office job down at the docks or an office job at some sanitation company. Well, they didn't actually work there. They didn't work there at all. They just on paper, they had a job there, so that when the IRS said, "Hey, how'd you buy this house?" he'd say, "Well, I have a job down at the docks. Here's my paperwork. Call my boss and ask him." I'm not saying Ed Reed's in the mob, or that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is he had a job at Miami that didn't actually exist. Director of football operations. It was a nothing job. And that's not a knock on Ed Reed either. Now, that's a knock on Miami. I don't understand what point it is they think they were accomplishing by naming someone like Ed Reed, basically inventing a position that didn't exist, and then saying Ed Reed holds this position. But no one could ever tell you what he did because he didn't do anything. So Ed Reed leaves a job at Miami that didn't exist to take a job at Bethune-Cookman that he was never given, and then was fired from that job which he never had. That's pretty much the summary. Be sure and type down below that I'm a racist redneck hillbilly.